Tyvek surgical gowns training video. What this video will show you. This video will demonstrate how to create protective surgical gowns out of construction vapor barriers such as Tyvek for first responders to use in the COVID pandemic. This personal protective equipment, or PPE, is sturdy enough to be sanitized for reuse by first responders. Information about the pattern is available in the links below. Context of this project. This project is located in Clackamas County, Oregon. There are a number of similar projects across the country. Ours has some differences based on local preferences. For example, you might notice that some patterns place a long tie at the waist that goes completely around the gown and ties in the front. Our firefighters have requested looser ties to accommodate the amount of movement required when they are working with an ill patient. Some patterns have a more traditional sleeve, with the top curved at the shoulder. We have adopted a triangular sleeve that allows for more movement given the stiffness of the fabric. Our firefighters noticed that the triangular sleeve was not long enough to cover their wrists during some work with patients, so we added a 4-inch cuff at the bottom of the sleeve. Because the construction vapor barrier does not have any give to it, we use 9 inches of elastic at the sleeve to ensure that first responders can easily insert and remove their gloved hands during use of the PPE. Materials needed: Tyvek or generic house wrap such as Everbuilt from Home Depot. Each gown requires 30 square feet, so you can make 10 gowns from one roll that is 3 feet by 100 feet. Thread, any color, all-purpose thread. 18 inches of 1/4 inch elastic per gown, 9 inches per sleeve. Part 1. Cutting the gown. There are 4 parts to the gown. A. The gown, front and back. B. The sleeves. C. The cuff and elastic. D. The ties. Piece A. The gown. The overall dimension of the gown is 36 inches wide by 90 inches long. It will be folded in half to make a gown that is 45 inches long. First, cut your roll, which is 36 inches wide, into a 90-inch length. Then fold it in half to be 36 inches wide and 45 inches long. Then fold it again lengthwise so that it is now 45 inches long and 18 inches wide. While it is folded in this way, you will cut through one of the layers, the one on the outside of the fold, to create the slit that goes all the way up the back of the gown. While it is still folded in this way, make 4 marks on the gown with a Sharpie pen. Mark the center of the shoulder on each side. Mark the position of the ties. Both ties will be 18 inches down from the shoulder. Make a mark for one tie at the center back edge of the gown. The other tie is positioned 6 inches in from the center back edge of the gown. Then unfold the gown on the front side and cut the neck hole in the center front of the gown. The neck hole is 8 inches by 1.5 inches. It helps to make a cardboard template. Part B. The sleeves. Cut one piece 30 inches long. The width will be the width of the roll of fabric. Cut this piece in half lengthwise to make 2 pieces 30 inches by 18 inches. Fold these two pieces in half to make two folded pieces 15 inches by 18 inches. Cut the sleeve shape. With the 18-inch fold on your left, measure 6 inches from the right of the fold and cut diagonally from the 6-inch mark to the upper right-hand corner of the folded piece. Using a Sharpie, make a mark on both sleeves at the top, center of each shoulder. This mark will align with the mark at the shoulder of the gown, which was piece A, when you sew the sleeve to the gown. Part C, the cuffs. From the excess fabric left after cutting the sleeves, cut 4 rectangles, 6.5 inches by 4 inches. Elastic. Cut 9 inches of 1/4 inch wide elastic for each cuff. Part D, the ties. Cut 1.5 inch wide strips from leftover fabric after cutting the cuffs. Part 2, assembling the parts into an actual gown. Begin by sewing the ties and attach to the gown. First, fold the 1.5 inch strips into thirds lengthwise. Sew the strips into one long strip, joining a new strip to the existing strip while continuing to sew the long strip. You do not want to stop and start the sewing at the end of each of the strip pieces. Note, you will need a total of 840 inches of ties to make 10 gowns. That's 70 feet of ties. Cut the long strip into your ties. You will need 2 16-inch back ties and 1 52-inch necktie for each gown. Measure in 16 inches from one end of the 52-inch tie and make a mark with a Sharpie. Sew the necktie to the gown, matching the mark 16 inches from the end of the 52-inch tie to the center back of the gown. Attach the tie around the neck opening to add strength to the opening. Fold the tie 90 degrees at corners. Sew one 16-inch tie to the center back of the gown, 18 inches down from the shoulder. Sew the second 16-inch tie to the back of the gown, 18 inches down from the shoulder and 6 inches in from the center back edge. Make the cuffs C and attach to the sleeves B. Overlap 2 cuff pieces by 1/2 inch along the 4-inch sides and sew the 2 smaller rectangles together to make a cuff 12 inches by 4 inches. Sew 9 inches of 1/4 inch elastic to the cuff along one 12-inch side. Sew the cuff to the sleeve at the wrist, right sides together. Attach sleeves B to gown A. Sew sleeves to gown, matching the center marks at the shoulders. It is helpful to begin and end sewing this seam 1/2 inch from the ends of the sleeve along the shoulder seam. Leaving that 1/2 inch gap at the beginning and end of this seam will make it easier to sew the underarm seam in the next step. Sew gown front to back. With right sides together, sew the long side of the gown, which is the underarm seams of sleeves and gown. Begin this seam at the cuff on each side of the gown. That way, if there is any unevenness in the sides of the gown, the difference will be at the hem and not at the cuff, which would make the PPE less effective in keeping the first responders safe. A note about materials. Some projects use only Tyvek vapor barrier or generic products of similar quality. We are using Home Depot's Everbuilt house barrier product, which is a woven product. It is slightly more porous than Tyvek, but when our firefighters compared cost with effectiveness, they determined that the Everbuild provides adequate protection at an affordable price. Vapor barriers and house barriers come in 3-foot and 9-foot width in rolls that are 100 feet long. The cost per square foot is lower with the 9-foot rolls, but the larger rolls are more cumbersome to cut. For this video, we demonstrate with a 3-foot by 100-foot roll of Home Depot's Everbuild woven house wrap. Room setup. Cutting table. A 6-foot folding table provides a convenient cutting slot in the middle. Cutting marks on the table. We made these marks on masking tape attached to the table. 6 inches distance of second back tie in from the edge. 9 inches for the large elastic. 16 inches for the necktie plus 36 inches. The necktie is 52 inches total. You also use the 16-inch mark for where to attach the necktie to the center back slit. 18 inches for the gown length, which is the 72 inches at the table plus 18 inches to total the 90 inches. We also use this mark for the back ties, which are 18 inches down from the shoulder, and 30 inches for the sleeves. Other miscellaneous materials that were helpful to us: Sharpies for marking sewing points on the gowns, cutting mat and ruler, rotary cutter, and scissors, extension cords and power strips, measuring tapes, mailing tape for repairing any defects in the Tyvek, sanitizing wipes, masks, and gloves depending on local requirements or recommendations, and consider room placement when sewing in groups, tables 6 feet apart with airflow, using fans or open windows. Conclusion. And that's our method for making effective, reasonably priced personal protective equipment from Tyvek and similar vapor barrier materials for first responders. Thanks so much for watching. You can totally do this in your own community to help protect your first responders. I look forward to reading your comments and questions below.